Recently, Nkonki named PPC as the overall winner of its Top 100 Integrated Reporting Award for the 2012 fiscal year, as measured mainly against the King 3 requirements. But the accounting firm says many companies are still not disclosing the salaries of the 3 most highly paid employees who are not directors as they should. Managing partner at Nkonki, Mitesh Patel, is our studio guest. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
When you look at this particular subject, you have to start with the fact that we already know that a lot of people in many companies, in fact, a lot of the top management in many companies, particularly those who are part of the board of directors, get paid a lot of money, and which a lot of shareholders think they shouldn't be paid. We know that information is out there, and having access to that information does not necessarily change that culture. Why is it important for King 3 report, or for the King 3 requirements, for us to know how much the top 3 management people who are not part of the board members, why is it important for us to know that information?
I think there's a couple of levels. One is we're trying to create an environment of transparency, because the guys that are the employees that are involved at such a high level normally take part in decisions that the board normally take through to shareholders. Whilst not on the board, they're part of either as prescribed officers, which they normally say if you act like a director and you do what a director does, they are directors, but they're just not on the board. So for us to disclose their salaries as part of the integrated report just shows the user the involvement of the level of employee that you're talking about, and his decision-making abilities within the report and to the shareholder. So I think the idea is to basically show transparency, one, and there could be some disparities between the highly paid employees versus the actual board or CEO, CFO, and you try and explain those disparities to shareholders as well.
But we already know that happens already, and it does not necessarily change that fact, even if you have access to that information. And if a company still chooses not to disclose that information, clearly whatever negative consequences are there for you not to disclose are not negative enough, or else they would still disclose that information.
There's definitely a culture of not disclosing currently as we sit when you look at our research done on the integrated reporting. Maybe if I take you back a bit on the actual Companies Act now, you'll see shareholders have an actual say in directors' remuneration, where there's a special resolution required for approving directors, both executive and non-executive remunerations for the year going forward for 2 years. I think the culture now is to actually get companies to start listening to shareholder demands, shareholder activism, and even listen to what the shareholders require in terms of this transparency, in terms of salaries, which is normally a highly topical issue. And the reason, again, for the highly paid individuals within the entities, normally these individuals have share options. Like I said earlier, they make decisions within the entity that affect the shareholders. But I think what we're trying to say is companies need to start moving towards a culture where they start listening to shareholders, understanding what the King 3 requirements are, and creating a culture of accountability to the shareholder. But you're right, a lot of the companies now are still not doing that. Some of them are actually saying that they don't want to do that because of industry competition. Example, in the retail industry, they don't want to put their highly paid individuals remuneration out there because they could get headhunted out of them.
And I'm sure they do get headhunted, and they offer you something better. And sorry to cut you there. And just apart from that, are there any other issues that companies should be disclosing on, but they don't?
You mean in terms of remuneration? Well, basically it's the directors, the prescribed officers, which are actually a Companies Act requirement, and in terms of King 3, it's the 3 most highly paid employees outside of being directors. What the companies are actually doing, what we found as a trend, is that they're disclosing the prescribed officers as part of the 3 employees that King is asking for. And generally, it could be that the 3 prescribed officers are actually the 3 most highly paid individuals in the entity.
And what about the privacy of the employee in question? I mean, we all secretive about how much we get paid.
We get paid. In fact, there were a few companies that actually wrote that as part of the explanation for not disclosing these highly paid individuals, for that specific reason, to say they've got confidentiality clauses within the employment agreements that doesn't allow them to actually put these employees as part of the the disclosure. King is not an act. It's not a law like the Companies Act.
Yeah.
So there is an explanation that could be provided to the public and to the JSE. But I think from a Companies Act perspective, the prescribed officers and the directors have got no choice but to disclose their remuneration.
Let's hope they're actually going to heed the call. Mitesh, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Mitesh Patel is Managing Partner at Nkonki.